You probably know someone like this. They exaggerate stories, they twist details. Sometimes they lie about things that don't seem worth lying about. Small things, obvious things, things you can literally verify in seconds. And you sit there thinking, why? Why lie about that? Because it doesn't always look strategic. It doesn't always look like manipulation with a clear goal. Sometimes it just feels automatic, almost like they can't help it. And that's where it gets interesting. Because when someone lies all the time, it's usually not about the lie itself. It's about what the lie is protecting. And let me explain. Most people think of lying as a moral issue. Good people tell the truth, bad people lie. But psychologically, it's rarely that simple. Chronic lying is often less about deception and more about regulation. Emotional regulation, to be precise. Think about what happens in a moment where the truth feels uncomfortable. Maybe the truth makes you look bad. Maybe it exposes insecurity. Maybe it risks rejection, judgment, or conflict. For some people, that discomfort is tolerable. They feel it, maybe squirm a little, but they stay with the truth. For others, that discomfort feels almost unbearable. So the brain looks for an exit, and lying becomes that exit. It's fast, it's effective, it immediately reshapes reality into something safer. I didn't mess that up. I actually did really well. That wasn't my fault. Each lie acts like a tiny shield, protecting the person from something they don't want to feel. And here's the key part. It works, at least in the short term. The moment they lie, the discomfort drops, anxiety decreases, their image feels intact again. And just like with any behavior that reduces discomfort, the brain learns, do this again. So over time, lying stops being a conscious choice and starts becoming a reflex, not because the person is sitting there thinking, I want to deceive everyone, but because their brain has learned, this is how we stay safe. Now layer something else on top of that, identity. Some chronic liars aren't just protecting themselves from negative feelings, they're actively constructing a version of themselves that feels more acceptable, more impressive, or more worthy. So they inflate stories, they add details, they reshape reality in ways that make them feel enough. It's like they're constantly editing their own character in real time. And if you've ever caught someone in a lie like that, you've probably noticed something strange. Even when confronted with clear evidence, they might double down, or deflect, or create another lie to cover the first one. From the outside, it looks irrational. But from the inside, it makes a kind of sense, because admitting the truth in that moment doesn't just mean correcting a fact. It means confronting the very feeling they were trying to avoid in the first place. Shame, insecurity, fear of being seen differently. So the lie isn't just about the situation anymore, it becomes about protecting their sense of self. And the longer this pattern continues, the more blurred the line becomes between what's real and what's constructed. There's actually research showing that repeated lying can reduce emotional response over time. The brain adapts. The initial discomfort fades. What once felt wrong starts to feel neutral, even normal. So the behavior reinforces itself, both emotionally and neurologically. But here's where I want to be careful. Understanding why someone lies all the time doesn't mean excusing it, because the impact is real. Trust erodes, relationships become unstable, people start to question everything, and eventually even the person who's lying can feel disconnected from others and from themselves. Because when you're constantly managing a version of reality, you never really get to rest inside the truth. You're always performing, adjusting, keeping track, and that's exhausting, whether they admit it or not. Now, if you recognize this pattern in someone else, it can be frustrating, confusing, sometimes even hurtful. You might try to call it out, to fix it, to get them to just be honest. But if the lying is tied to deeper emotional patterns, simple confrontation rarely solves it, because you're not just challenging a behavior, you're challenging a coping mechanism. And if you recognize even a small part of this in yourself, that's not something to ignore either. Not in a judgmental way, but in a curious way. Because the question isn't, why am I like this? It's, what am I trying not to feel? That's where the real work begins. Not by forcing brutal honesty overnight, but by slowly building the capacity to tolerate the truth. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's imperfect, even when it doesn't match the version of yourself you wish were real. Because the truth, ironically, is what creates stability. It's what allows real connection, real trust, real identity, not a perfect one, but an honest one. And that's something you don't have to constantly defend. So the next time you notice a lie, whether it's from someone else or from yourself, pause for a second and look past the surface, because behind almost every habitual lie, There's a very human reason, not always a justified one, but an understandable one, and understanding it is the first step to changing it. If this made you see people, or even yourself, a little differently, consider subscribing so we can keep unpacking these patterns together. I'd really like to hear your take too, so share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think drives people to lie so often? And if there's a topic you want me to explore next, something you've been curious about or trying to understand, drop it down there as well. That's how these videos stay connected to you. And until the next one, pay attention not just to what people say, but to what they might be trying to protect when they say it.